Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're going to be looking at some pretty fascinating research. Uh, it's about DMT and the possible role it plays in some pretty profound human experiences.
Absolutely.
Things like near-death states and spiritual awakenings.
Yeah, the book we're diving into today, it proposes a pretty intriguing idea.
Okay.
It suggests that the pineal gland, this tiny little structure in the brain,
Hmm.
might actually be producing DMT during these experiences.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty wild concept, I got to say.
It is.
But hey, I'm all for keeping an open mind
You're right.
as we explore this. So before we get too deep into the weeds here,
Yeah.
can you give us just a little bit of background on DMT itself? Like, what exactly is it, and why is it so interesting to researchers?
Sure. So DMT, or N, and dimethyltryptamine, is a psychedelic compound, and it's actually found in a surprising number of places like various plants and even trace amounts in the human body.
Really?
What makes DMT so fascinating is its intensity and the fact that its effects come on really, really rapidly. Unlike other psychedelics, a DMT experience, it's incredibly short-lived,
Okay.
but it packs a powerful punch in those few minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, people often report incredibly vivid and immersive experiences, like traveling to other realms or even encountering beings
Whoa.
or having these really profound insights.
Sounds intense.
It can be.
So how does this all connect back to the pineal gland? I know it's often referred to as the third eye
Right.
in a lot of
Yeah.
spiritual traditions. Is there any kind of scientific basis for that?
Well, that's what's so interesting about this research. The author, who is a psychiatrist, he goes really deep into the historical and scientific significance of the pineal gland. For centuries, it's been associated with things like mysticism and spiritual insight.
Yeah, right.
And this book, it's really exploring whether there's a biological basis for those beliefs. The research suggests that the pineal gland, it might be more than just a regulator of our sleep cycles. It could potentially be a gateway to these extraordinary states of consciousness.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how did the researchers actually go about studying this? I imagine it can't be easy to do like scientific research
Right.
on something that's as subjective as a DMT experience.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It's a very challenging area to research.
Yeah.
What makes this book so unique is that the research was actually conducted in a hospital setting.
Really?
Yeah, the author and his team, they administered DMT to volunteers,
Okay.
but they did it in a controlled environment, meticulously documenting their experiences and any physiological changes.
A hospital setting for psychedelic research. That's
Uh,
definitely not what I was picturing. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that all worked?
Well, it was certainly a unique approach. Just imagine your typical hospital room transformed into this kind of psychedelic research lab,
Okay.
complete with medical equipment, monitoring devices, and of course, a comfortable space for the volunteers to lie down and have their DMT experiences.
That's quite a contrast to the typical image of psychedelic experimentation, I gotta say.
Right.
So what kind of challenges did they run into conducting research in such a formal setting?
Well, it definitely presented its own set of hurdles. I mean, first of all, they had to get permission for this type of research,
Of course.
which wasn't easy. Then they had to source pharmaceutical-grade DMT. And of course, ensuring the safety and well-being of the volunteers throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
All of these were major considerations.
Right.
But the author, he really believed that this controlled environment was absolutely crucial for gathering reliable data and ensuring the scientific rigor of the study.
Makes sense. It definitely adds an interesting layer to the whole thing.
It does.
So how did this hospital environment actually affect the volunteers' experiences?
That's a great question. The book really emphasizes the importance of set and setting
Right.
in shaping any psychedelic experience. So set refers to the individual's mindset going into the experience,
Okay.
while setting refers to the physical and social environment.
Okay.
So in this case, that sterile and controlled hospital setting
Yeah.
with doctors and nurses present,
Right.
it undoubtedly influenced the nature of the experiences reported by the volunteers.
I can imagine. Yeah, it might have felt a bit more clinical than, say, taking DMT out in nature or doing some kind of spiritual ceremony.
Possibly.
But I guess that clinical aspect probably made it easier to, document and analyze the experiences, right?
Exactly. The researchers, they were able to collect detailed accounts of the volunteers' experiences. They also had all the physiological data,
Okay.
and that provided valuable insights into the effects of DMT on the brain and body.
Wow.
This meticulous approach, it really helped to ground the research in scientific objectivity,
Right.
even when dealing with such subjective experiences.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about those experiences. What kinds of things were the volunteers reporting after taking DMT in this hospital setting?
Well, the book, it categorizes the experiences into several distinct groups,
Okay.
each representing a different facet of the DMT journey.
Right.
But it's important to remember that these categories, they're fluid.
Okay.
They often overlap and intertwine, and that
Right.
reflects the complex and multifaceted nature of the DMT experience.
That makes sense. So what are some of these categories? What kind of tapestry did their experiences weave?
Well, some of the most common themes that emerged were experiences of profound introspection,
Yeah.
encounters with these otherworldly landscapes and beings,
Mm-hmm.
and even experiences that resembled near-death states or mystical visions.
Wow.
But each individual's journey, it was unique, shaped by their own personal history, their
Right.
beliefs and expectations,
Yeah.
and of course the influence of the hospital environment itself.
Right, of course.
Let's start with those introspective experiences. Many volunteers, they described this feeling like they were diving deep into their own subconscious, like confronting these hidden emotions and memories.
Wow.
Some even reported experiencing emotional breakthroughs or gaining a new perspective on past traumas.
So it's like DMT acts as this catalyst for self-exploration, almost like a super fast-track therapy session compressed into a few minutes.
Yeah, it's a really interesting analogy.
Did the volunteers, did they find these introspective experiences to be helpful, like therapeutic,
Yeah.
even in that formal setting?
It's remarkable, but many of them did report a sense of release or clarity or even a newfound understanding of themselves
Wow.
after these intense introspective experiences.
So even within the clinical confines of a hospital,
Yeah,
it sounds like DMT could still facilitate this really powerful journey of self-discovery.
it seems that way.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what about the otherworldly encounters? You mentioned that some volunteers felt like they were traveling to other realms or even meeting strange beings.
Right.
I have to admit, that's the part that really piques my curiosity.
Yeah, those accounts are definitely some of the most mind-boggling.
Okay.
Volunteers described being transported to landscapes that just defied the laws of physics.
Like what? Give me an example.
Things like alien planets or futuristic cities,
Really?
or even these kaleidoscopic dimensions.
Wow.
Some even encountered beings that seemed intelligent and communicative,
Mm-hmm.
though often bizarre or otherworldly in appearance.
Okay, so that's why. Did the volunteers seem frightened by these encounters? Or was it more of a sense of awe and wonder?
It really varied from person to person, as you might imagine.
Yeah, I guess so.
Some were initially overwhelmed, maybe even terrified, especially if they encountered entities that seemed threatening or judgmental.
Right.
But many described a sense of wonder or curiosity, or even a feeling of connection with these strange beings.
It makes you wonder if these experiences are just hallucinations.
Right.
Or if they're tapping into some deeper level of reality that we just can't normally perceive.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question.
And the researchers, did they have any theories about what might be going on?
Well, the book doesn't offer any definitive answers, which I think is part of what makes it so intriguing. It presents the data, acknowledges the strangeness and the mystery, and really encourages readers to grapple with the possibilities.
Yeah.
The author, he certainly seems open to the idea that these experiences could be more than just random neural firings.
Okay.
But he also emphasizes the need for further research and a healthy dose of scientific skepticism.
I appreciate that balanced approach. Yeah, it's important to be open to the unknown, but without jumping to conclusions.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned that some experiences resembled near-death states. That's a theme that seems to come up a lot in relation to DMT.
It does.
What kind of similarities did the researchers find?
Well, think about the classic elements of a near-death experience. The feeling of leaving one's body, traveling through a tunnel of light, encountering deceased loved ones or spiritual beings, and then ultimately returning to the physical body.
Right.
Surprisingly, many of those elements were echoed in the DMT experiences reported by the volunteers.
So even though these individuals were physically safe in a hospital bed,
Right.
their brains are basically simulating the experience of death and transcendence.
It seems that way. And what's particularly fascinating is that these experiences were often accompanied by a profound sense of peace or acceptance
Okay.
or even a feeling of coming home.
Wow.
It's as if for a brief moment, these individuals were touching on a realm beyond fear, beyond the limitations of the physical body.
That's both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It really makes you question what we know about consciousness and the nature of reality.
For sure.
Did any of the volunteers, did they report experiences that could be classified as like mystical or spiritual.
Absolutely. In fact, many describe their DMT experiences as deeply spiritual, even those who didn't identify with any particular religion beforehand.
Oh, interesting.
They spoke of experiencing a sense of unity with the universe or feeling interconnected with all things,
Mm.
or even encountering a divine presence. These accounts were often accompanied by a sense of awe and wonder
Yeah.
and profound insight into the nature of existence.
It sounds like DMT might be a key to unlocking those transcendent states that mystics and spiritual seekers have been striving to achieve for centuries,
Yeah,
even if it's just a temporary glimpse.
right.
Did the researchers find any connections between these mystical experiences and the activity in the pineal gland?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I guess so.
While the research couldn't definitively prove a direct link, the author does present some compelling evidence to suggest that the pineal gland might play a role in these extraordinary states of consciousness.
Okay.
He points to the gland's unique anatomical features,
Yeah.
its historical significance in spiritual traditions,
Mm.
and the intriguing research suggesting that DMT levels might fluctuate in the body during profoundly altered states,
Like what?
like near-death experiences or deep meditation.
Okay.
It's certainly an area ripe for further exploration.
Definitely. I'm really curious to hear more about the implications of all of this.
Yeah.
If DMT can trigger these kinds of experiences, what does that tell us about consciousness, about
Yeah.
reality, about the potential of the human mind?
Well, that's what we'll delve into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore the broader implications of this research,
Okay.
the ethical considerations, and the potential applications of this knowledge in fields like medicine,
Right.
psychotherapy, and
Mm.
even our understanding of spirituality itself.
I can't wait to uncover those layers.
Yeah.
This is truly mind-blowing stuff. Okay, so we've journeyed pretty deep into this world of DMT.
Yeah.
We've been exploring all these incredible experiences that the volunteers had,
Uh-huh.
in this hospital setting.
Yeah.
But now I think it's time to maybe shift gears a little bit and talk about what it all means. What are the so-whats of this research? What are the implications for our understanding of, consciousness, reality,
Right.
maybe even human potential?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The book, it doesn't offer easy answers,
Right.
but it raises so many thought-provoking questions.
Okay.
I mean, if a naturally occurring compound like DMT can induce such profound changes in perception and awareness, what does that tell us about the nature of consciousness itself?
Yeah, it's like we're only accessing a fraction of our mental capabilities
Right.
in our ordinary state.
Right.
DMT seems to unlock something deeper, something that challenges our everyday assumptions about who we are and what's even possible.
Exactly. And it raises questions about the nature of reality itself.
Okay.
Are these DMT experiences just hallucinations?
Right.
Or are they glimpses into other dimensions of existence?
Hmm.
Could it be that our brains are actually filtering out a vast spectrum of reality,
Okay.
and DMT, in a sense, removes those filters?
Wow. A mind-bending concept.
It is.
And if DMT is present in our bodies naturally, does that mean that we all have the potential to tap into these extraordinary states? I mean, if the pineal gland is producing this spirit molecule, could there be ways to activate it without using external substances?
Well, that's one of the most intriguing implications of this research. The book, it explores the idea that practices like meditation or deep prayer
Okay.
or even near-death experiences
Right.
might actually trigger the release of DMT in the brain naturally,
Wow.
allowing us to access these altered states without any external substances.
That makes you wonder about all those spiritual traditions that have been emphasizing these practices for centuries.
Right.
Could they have stumbled upon a way to tap into these deeper levels of consciousness
Yeah.
without even really understanding the underlying neurochemistry?
It's a fascinating possibility, and it opens up a whole new way of thinking about spirituality.
Okay.
Not as something separate from science, but as something that's deeply intertwined with our biology and our understanding of the brain.
So all of this raises some important ethical considerations. If DMT can have such a profound impact
Right.
on our perception and even our sense of self,
Yeah.
we really need to approach it with caution and responsibility.
Absolutely. The book emphasizes the importance of careful screening, preparation, and integration when working with DMT,
Yeah.
especially in a therapeutic setting.
Right.
These are powerful experiences. They can be transformative,
Yeah.
but they also carry potential risks if they're not handled appropriately.
I'm also curious about the potential applications of this research. Could DMT, if it's used responsibly,
Right.
have a place in treating mental health conditions
Oh, yeah.
or helping people to cope with trauma or even end-of-life anxiety.
There's a growing body of research exploring the therapeutic potential of psychedelics, including DMT.
Okay.
Some studies suggest it could be helpful in treating conditions like depression, addiction, or even PTSD.
Wow.
But it's still early days.
Right.
More research is definitely needed to determine the safety and efficacy of these treatments.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, though.
It is.
But we need to proceed with caution and make sure that these powerful tools are being used ethically and with a deep understanding of their potential impact.
I completely agree. The future of psychedelic research, it's full of both promise and challenges, and we need to navigate this territory with wisdom and a commitment to the well-being of individuals and society as a whole.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the science of DMT
Yeah.
to the potential implications for understanding consciousness,
Right.
reality, and even spirituality.
Uh-huh.
What's the one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with?
For me, it's the reminder that we still have so much to learn about the human mind and its potential DMT research. It's just one window into this vast mystery of consciousness. And it challenges us to keep exploring, to keep asking questions, and to keep an open mind to the possibilities that lie beyond our current understanding.
Beautifully said. It's a call to embrace the unknown and to approach these profound questions with both scientific rigor and a sense of awe and wonder. So to our listeners, keep diving deep, keep questioning, and keep exploring the mysteries within and around you. Then until next time, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of DMT.